the anti-manifestation principle, how I deal with stiffness in the mind so that we can actually flow through life and not be resistant to it. This is the step-by-step guide of how to actually get what you want in life without sacrificing fulfillment, happiness, and most importantly, empowerment. So the way manifestation is taught nowadays is with a lot of magical thinking. Now, what I mean by magical thinking is it's putting faith or a belief in something which isn't necessarily grounded in objectivity, practicality, or real world life experience. Now, this doesn't mean we become logical essentialists. There is more to life than what we can observe objectively and measure objectively, which is what someone who has an overly critical scientific mind would believe. But let's say we trying to manifest our dream partner into our life, or we're trying to manifest money into our life, okay? And we're sitting, we're doing a meditation, a manifestation, all that kind of stuff. And let's say we do get a raise, right? Amazing. We do get money. We do get something come into our life. People will take that as proof of manifestation. And in some ways you could argue that. However, whenever we're manifesting and we're not getting what I want, which is what's happening 90% or 99% of the time rather, there's no recourse that we can go on to correct that behavior, because fundamentally the system is based in something which is outside of our outside of our control. So let's take this example even further. Let's say there is something about manifestation which is true. Right? Let's say it is just inherently true. However, it works in the way that it works in this world, which is 99% of people who manifest don't get what they want. And then the 1% of the time that they do, they say manifestation is amazing. This thing is something that I should do. Okay? Well, it's still putting power outside of you. Like, you're still manifesting, like in the universe or in God. There's a course out there called Little Miracles. I think it's based in Christianity. I can't remember the exact way. But there's so many different systems of manifestation that you can do, or there's so many different courses out there that can happen, that you're still essentially placing your empowerment outside, externally. Or if I do this thing, if I let this thing go, then the angels are going to take care of me. God is going to take care of me. The universe is going to take care of me. Love is going to take care of me, right? You are projecting your own autonomy and power outside of yourself. So even if it is a system which you can leverage and is real, then it's something which really is not very empowering to you to go into. And that's the problem with magical thinking. We want, in this work, if you tune into this channel for long enough, we want a real bottom-up grounded maturity where we can use everything together as an entire ecosystem. Whenever there's a time where we're placing something outside of ourselves, or we're projecting power or autonomy or our ability to do something outside of ourselves, which is what I see a lot of people struggle with manifestation, then that's something which is going to hold us back in the long term. So it's like one of my clients, James, who was a software engineer, worked in fintech, and was able to exit that work for 2 or 3 years and just travel, be exclusively working on himself with shadow work and spirituality. He went for a bunch of different mentors and hero's journeys before we worked together, and we still work together. And he, from these communities that obviously meant very well around manifestation, the kind of breathwork community. I'm not having a go at breathwork, I don't know too much about it, but it's just to kind of give you a sense of what these communities were into. Very kind of love is everything. Love is the guiding principle. I think love is definitely a foundational principle. I wouldn't say it's the guiding principle at all. Like I said, smart guy, logically minded, but also quite rarely very intuitively minded at the same time. So real, comprehensive way of looking at things. He still had things that were holding him back, which is exactly what this video is about, which is the anti-manifestation principle. We want to flip the manifestation principle so we can actually have agency in our life and not be at the whims and woes of the universe. And how we were able to work with James, or how I was able to work with James, was we took him from being completely lost, kind of a leaf in the wind, no directionality, no prospect of getting money, not really knowing what he wanted to do. He was really into doing shadow work and spirituality, but he couldn't do that forever. He needed to actually do something with his life. And now, right now, he's working in, And now he owns his dream business. He's able to be fully nomadic, which is what he wanted. He's able to have complete control over where he lives because it's fully online. He's able to help people show up in a leadership space without going back to the harshness and the pushing that he had to do before. He's able to have full agency in his life without sacrificing fulfillment, happiness, or responsibility. So here's the exact breakdown of how we move from manifestation to anti-manifestation. And it's this axis. Desire is good, craving is bad. So what you see in a lot of manifestation is this idea that we shouldn't need anything or we shouldn't desire anything and we should just let it go, let the desire and wants go to whatever you're orienting yourself around, the universe, God, whatever it is, and you let that take care of you. Let that take care of it. But this is the core kind of tenets of a lot of the manifestation that I see, that my clients have been through, the clients that come to me, and that we have to decondition. And we have to understand the difference between desire and craving, okay? So I used to be a competitor in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I know a bit about this world. It wasn't like a world-class, I wasn't like a black belt competitor or anything, but I was a very high-level competitor. And what you see with competitors is they want to win. Some of these competitors really need to win in order to make money, support themselves, to feel good about themselves. I'm not saying we should come to that place, okay, or we should come from that place in any way. I'm just saying the reality of what a lot of competitors are. And when you see the people who win, you see that a lot of them really wants to win, or all of them really wants to win, and they really need to win. One or the other, or both of them at the same time. So clearly, when you're in one of the most competitive industries of all time, which is professional sports, the wants to win, the need to win, desire to win is not actually stopping you from winning. It's something which you need to motivate you, to drive you, okay? Now, we'll get to the distinction of needing to win versus really desiring to win. Needing to win, if you just care about winning, is probably actually pretty important. It will make you be very disciplined. It will make you want to work really hard. It'll make you do whatever's necessary to win. However, the actual subjective experience of needing to win is less than desirable because it's not a very pleasant state to be in. And also, there are a lot of people who feel like they really need to win and they don't. And one of the reasons why is because when you really need to win, you get super stifled and you can sometimes stops you from doing your best, right? However, if you have a really strong desire to win, but you're completely equanimous with whether you actually win or not in terms of how you view yourself, that for me is the strongest motivator there is. So we're not trying to get rid of desire. The problem is noticing what the difference between desire and needing to win is, or needing to be successful is. So we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This is the anti-manifestation principle. We want to have full desire, even if at the start you have full neediness, right? But you're equanimous to whether you win or you lose. That's a complex topic in and of itself, but it is possible. That's okay too, right? Again, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we're essentially trying to get to a place where desire does not affect your equanimity, your state of being, your way of viewing yourself. So with James, what he was falling into the trap, because a lot of these communities that when they first get into manifestation, it's just normal, right? Everyone's like this in the beginning. There's a kind of lack of nuance, okay? It's like, I just came from this worldview where I got all this money and I was really successful, but it made me burned out, stressed, and realized that money isn't very important. So I'm just gonna, anything that even smells a little bit like that worldview, I'm just gonna disown, okay? Now that in some ways is kind of useful because it gets you to swing to the pendulum to the whole other way. And there's a certain argument for pendulum swinging, in my opinion, in order to find where your middle ground is or the middle path is. However, to stay in that worldview is just as harmful as being in the other worldview, where really pushing and really burning yourself out is seen as good or seen as something which should be good, right? Or should be attained. So with James, he was still doing this. Anything that felt like like there was all this healthy desire coming up, which we worked a lot on and we gave a lot of direction to. But the thing that really took him from point A to point B was realizing that this desire was really healthy, but all of the extra forcing, the unequanimity, the pushing, all of that kind of stuff that makes your mind really tight and tense and stiff and makes you feel really stifled, that's the part that we let go of. So he was letting go of his drive in general. Whereas when we worked together, we were reintegrating that drive in a very healthy way, in a way where it had so much power and it almost felt like it was a bit of pushing. But because it's a healthy desire, because it's bottom up and not top down, we're not top downing, pushing ourselves forward. We have this real authentic desire to go out and change the world in whatever way we want to. It makes it much more sustainable, it makes it so you can't really burn out, and it makes it so you have a clear direction. However, if you don't have this distinction, which is the distinction I'm giving you right now, then that can feel like the old worldview, which is, oh, I burnt myself out last time I did this. Let me just put pause on that. Okay? And a lot of the time that worldview is coming from shadow, which is why I made my most practical guide to shadow work on the internet, where we go over introjections, projections, split ego states, how to heal each of them. It's completely free, 3 hours of content. It's a live stream plus a 4-week program to get you from point A to point Z. It's in the link below, download it. If you do that work together, it will completely change how you look at shadow work and also transform you as a person. So getting back to James, he went from passive to active, understanding this principle. So here's an even more in-depth guide of how to do this yourself. So step 1, recognizing the difference between desire and craving. Desire is something which authentically happens. You can almost class it as like a feeling, although it's something different, but for now we'll just class it as a feeling. Feelings, they arise naturally. Fear arises naturally. There's nothing wrong with fear necessarily. Guilt arises naturally. Happiness arises naturally. Love arises naturally. All of these things are feeling. Desire is part of this kind of field. It's a bottom up, right? You can get inspired by something. That's a real bottom up principle. The craving then is when it goes from feeling to I like this, I don't like this, I neither like or nor dislike this. How we can colloquialize this even more is it's when we take it personally. Oh, I have this desire, therefore this desire means that I need to win this thing. No, that's the part that we let go of, okay? That's the part which we relax. So you have the full desire that comes up from bottom-up principles. What I want you to do is I want you to pay attention to the tension that comes up in the mind. Stiffness as the mind is someone who I recently talked to, who I thought was a really good way of describing it. It's a real stiffness of the mind, right? There's a stiffness in the mind and in the body. If we can relax that and remain equanimous with the feeling of desire or with the embodiment of desire, what equanimous means is being neither here nor there. It's not we're trying to say it doesn't matter, but we're trying to say it really matters. We're just allowing it to be there. The same way that when we have happiness, we just allow it to be there. And the same way that when happiness becomes suffering is the moment that we take happiness and we want to hold on to it and we want to cling to it. No, that's the difference between desire and craving. So to bullet point it even more, desire, it comes up and it's a very strong emotion, but there's no tension associated with it. Whenever there's tension associated with it, that's when we know it's craving. So if we try and suppress desire, then we're just suppressing another part of ourselves, which will just lead to more shadow work in the future, which is what we had to deal with James, with the example of James. He had suppressed a lot of his desire, so a lot of our healing work came with healing some big insecurities and also misconceptions around what desire and what neediness actually was, and then almost like a psycho-education or a re-education of how to integrate desire back into his ecosystem, his internal ecosystem. So number 2, this is when you go to the link and you download the most practical guides to shadow work on the internet. Like I said, it's free. Is we want to let go of the introjections that we've gotten maybe from some more very well-meaning but maybe absolutist or fundamentalist spiritual communities that we picked up on, aka some of the manifestation communities, like just manifest, just let it go, just give it to the universe or God, all that kind of stuff, because the more thinking we transcend, integrate and liberate from magical thinking, the more space, the more agency you will have. Because whenever we put something out there into the universe, it's almost like if you were to take the example of if you ever known someone that's really had like a real overbearing parental figure, and they just kind of, whenever they get really stressed, they say, oh, mum will take care of it, or dad will take care of it. Any of these types of people, maybe it's you, maybe it's a family member, whatever. It can be something else. From the outside, you can see there's a lack of maturity there. Now, if someone's really stressed and they're having a shadow crash, fair enough, right? Even if they're not having that, judgment isn't helpful. Fully accepting of whoever they are. But we can just see, right, just from the outside, that this is an inherently limiting perspective. Whilst it might not feel very safe and secure because we're having this mummy or daddy or older figure who's going to come and save us, and maybe they do come and save us regularly, it creates this dependency on another person. A lot of the time in spiritual communities, and also religions as well, they do this with the concept of God, or with the concept of the universe, or with the concept of love, or with the concept of manifestation. You can paste whatever word into it. Whenever we're doing that, it creates a dependency. And maybe even in the example of an adult coming and helping this person, that's actually something which the adult can actually come and help for us. If we're putting that faith in the universe or God, let's say these things are real. Obviously the universe is real, but I mean it more in that kind of a godlike, magical sense. Even if this stuff is real, it's beyond our comprehension. So we can't really rely on that. It's like a very unreliable thing to try and lean onto. So what I'm saying is, whenever we see more magical thinking, more immature thinking, the more we can liberate that and grow from it, the more empowered we become as a person. Yes, in some sense, the safety blanket goes, and we might really need that safety blanket, or we might have needed that safety blanket growing up in the world or whatever that is. But at some point, that safety blanket has to come off for us to become real, embodied, actualized adults. Step 3 is we act out of this desire. We practice showing up with this desire, and we practice with equanimity. We practice this with equanimity. Okay? I've already gone into a lot about equanimity. Cleaning up shadows will be a big part of you getting towards equanimity, and a lot of the other content on this channel is about equanimity, so I won't go too deep into this. But it's essentially allowing this desire to be there inside of you, in your mind, in your body, in all different levels, all different states, all different ego states, and seeing where that takes you. So we're not becoming attached to it, we're not fighting against it, we're not embracing it necessarily, we're not trying to act ambivalent towards it, we're just showing up as it is, as we are, and we're seeing where that leads us. And we're practicing, and remember, imperfect, perfect practice. There's going to be times where we do get attached to it, there's going to be times where we don't follow it perfectly. That's totally normal, okay? We're not trying to be perfect here. Perfect, imperfect practice. And then every once in a while, you want to reassess and recheck. This is essentially baking in a reality checking process with you, okay? You want to say, okay, am I being so scared of going back into magical thinking that I'm disowning my feelings? Or that I'm disowning my intuition? Intuition is different from magical thinking. I can do a whole video topic on that. If you guys would like, put a comment in below if you guys want me to go into that. But intuition and magical thinking is very different, because intuition integrates thinking, belief-based systems, and ego-based systems, whereas magical thinking is just in a belief-based system, at least it's just in a belief-based system. Am I becoming too logical-minded? Am I becoming too rationalistic? Am I disowning certain parts of myself? Or am I going again back into magical thinking? You want to constantly be allowing maybe a little bit of doubt, which is healthy. Okay, we don't want to get rid of all doubt. Sometimes doubting ourselves is really, really useful. You want to allow this space for reassessing and rechecking. This stops us from kind of leading ourselves over cliffs. Also, this is highly subjective, highly complex work. We're not going to get it right straight away. So this enables us to do the best, to show up in the best way possible, and use all of that showing up data of actually going out and acting from this place of desire rather than suppressing it or turning it into craving. We can through reassessing and rechecking, we can have a really clear picture of what's going right. and what's going wrong. And that is the anti-manifestation principle. Enjoy.